this heralds really is fundamentally a new era in spaceflight, a new era in space exploration. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to have a base on the moon. We're going to send people to Mars, and make life multiplanetary. And I think this day heralds a new age of space exploration. That's what it's all about.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Groundhog Day experiment here with Starship Serial number 9. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Give me a mic check. I want to know that I'm coming through okay, obviously. This is already interesting. I'm already skimming over the news. I've had a slight nap. It was a big night last night. Obviously it's potentially going to be a big night tonight. I don't know at this stage because there's conflicting information already. I'm hoping it's going to be a little clearer than yesterday. Because yesterday obviously was just super confusing the entire day. Things were changing back and forth. It was all go, then it was off, then it was go again, then it was off again. So let's hope that there is some clarity. If it's cancelled, let's hope that it's cancelled quickly so that we all know that it's cancelled instead of having to wait around all day. Currently what we're seeing is that there's sort of conflicting information between the FAA notices that we're seeing versus the temporary flight restrictions, and we're seeing evacuations actually happening at Boca Chica on site. So things seem to be happening, and at the same time they seem to be cancelled almost simultaneously. It is confusing as hell. I will admit that first up. So yes, let's quickly check in here on the chat. We'll just get a quick check from where everybody is joining from. We've already got over 800 people here. So yes, where are we all joining from today? What time zones are we in? I'm in Australia. Obviously it is 1 a.m. kicking this thing off fresh again. So yes, that's going to be interesting. There we go. We see all of those chats coming through already. We have quite a few from Australia already. So there's some people staying up late for this one. And, oh, wow, Bangladesh, UK, Netherlands, Germany, Holland, Arizona, Denmark, Melbourne, Germany, again, wow, Canada, all over. Look at that. I love it. Absolutely love it. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Okay, so we are once again kicking off with Lab Padres live stream. We have got quite a nice shot. The conditions are really good right now. As far as we can tell, the wind is right down today, even less than it was yesterday. Yesterday didn't seem too bad. Today seems even better. The weather seems great. The roads are closed. The pad is clear. There isn't any sign of venting at this stage, but yes, we are hoping that we're going to see some sort of activity. It's really hard to know. Obviously, as soon as anybody sees any information at all, pop it into the chat there. Let us know what you're stumbling across. People are connected to other streams as well. Obviously, we're connected here to Lab Padres live stream. If you could be so kind as to open up Lab Padres live stream in another tab and make sure you're leaving a like there to help support us restreaming that would be awesome, and would also help us with our licensing as well that goes along with streaming this to you. So yes, thank you to Lewis and everybody involved on that side. Awesome of you to help us out. So yeah, as I say, we really don't know at this stage exactly what's going on. The evacuations have already, I think they've fully occurred, or they're at least still underway. The pad's obviously clear. Whether the village is clear at this stage, I'm not 100% sure. I know that Mary, aka Boca Chica Gal, had posted saying that they've had to evacuate. So I believe that is currently in progress. So yes, I am up for questions. We're going to be just generally chatting and hanging out really until we find one way or another some fairly concrete evidence about what's actually going to happen today. As many people are pointing out there, yes, there are FAA cancellation notices around. I don't know if that means we're 100% scrubbed or not. We saw all sorts of crazy notices popping up and being taken down yesterday. Elon, we'll just see and wait to see how this plays out. Hope the weather is doing well over there, mate. Nice and sunny in Perth. It is actually, well, it's dark obviously here right now. It's been a fairly miserable day in Tasmania, which is where I am streaming from here. We'll have to see how that clears up over the next couple of days. But the weather is more important at Boca Chica rather than Tasmania. You don't care about the weather here. You care about the weather there. Sadly, I could not be really further away from the action. So, yes, that's why we need Lab Padre to help us out there. Do you eat chicken? I eat a load of chicken. I actually love chicken. The most soothing voice on the internet. That might be soothing because I'm losing it. I must admit, we were streaming last night for roughly 6 hours, which is something that I'm a little unused to. So my voice is probably, hopefully it'll last out today. We're going to see. It's a good experiment. How much sleep have I had over the last couple of days? I didn't get much last night, obviously, but I did crash pretty hard during the day, so I'm almost in the time zone of the United States there in Texas. So, yeah. The problem is going to be getting back to my own time zone, I think, is actually going to be more the problem. So yes, as is being stated here by a number of people, the village is cleared, all people and Mary evacuated. So yes, I mean, they're not going to evacuate the site without there being a reason to do so. So could it be possible that they're instead going to fall back to some other form of testing? I don't know. That hasn't been announced by anyone. We don't have any information as far as I'm aware from SpaceX. The last tweet from Elon Musk was 8 hours ago saying that he liked a shot from RGV aerial photography. Nice work there, Mauricio. So, yes. Oh, actually, there was another one 5 hours ago which wasn't related to anything Starship. So, yes, we're still trying to find out exactly what's going on. As soon as we've got enough evidence to conclude that we should change the title of this stream, I'm happy to change it if it looks like a scrub is likely. At the moment, it looks like we're just kind of in a holding pattern really until we hear a little more information. So, before we actually even start talking about that, let's jump into some questions. Ask me anything about Starship and I'll see if I can answer it for you. We've got a lot of cool information. For those that aren't familiar with exactly what we're planning on, well, not what we're planning on seeing, what we are likely to see, this vessel is planning at this stage, as far as we know, to be flying to 10 kilometres in altitude. That's down from the 12.5 kilometres that we were expecting from the other day. So unsure exactly why that was lowered, whether it's something to do with just various wind levels and things like that. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me because the weather today would be totally different. So, especially to what it was yesterday, where it was there was quite a lot more wind going on. So yes, are they refining the methane from natural gas? Actually, that's a topic that I was going to talk about yesterday, and I just didn't get around to it. So, what we've been seeing more recently is a lot of work going down at the old gas well, which is quite close to the main construction yard there. I might actually see if I can pull up an image from Mauricio to see if we can spot a little more information on that, because it's still in progress. It's quite interesting what we're seeing. We're seeing all sorts of machinery there that is going to actually be pulling fuel from, fuel sources, I guess, from the ground to synthesize into the liquid methane. So they are going to be using fossil fuels in this case, as far as we're aware. There has been more interesting tweets from Elon over the last week or two, asking about methods to extract carbon from the air and synthesize it that way. So, the best carbon capture technology has been a topic that has been raised here more recently. So we assume that in the long term they would like to be obviously environmentally friendly, not drilling up new fuels from underground, instead seeing if they can capture it and synthesize it. So I'll actually bring up an image from RGV aerial photography that I think is quite relevant so that we can sort of see roughly what we're talking about here. Just 1 second. Okay, so this is this is an image of the sort of the far side of the construction yard. The construction yard is sort of over on this side, along with the village, and what we can see here is where they're doing a lot of work. They're doing a lot of work installing this new system here. I don't know a lot about it, other than that it's a pretty, it's a pretty spectacular looking bit of machinery inside here. We have seen pictures from Mary from the ground that actually shows how this is all broken up inside. There's lots of different components to it for synthesizing the various fuel elements that are needed. So, there's work going on there. They're going to be drilling that to pull those natural resources out of the ground. Like I say, the long-term solution for fueling starships is to use that Sabatier process, however you pronounce that word, and that's going to obviously mean that they could fuel up on Mars using carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and likewise we want to be able to be experimenting with that here on the ground as well. So yes, that's a quick answer to that question. Hi Marcus, do you have any info concerning the Starship variant that is supposed to land on the moon with the Artemis missions? I haven't seen much on the human landing system version of the Starship for quite a while. The initial version of that was just a mock-up originally, which is still at Boca Chica. There's still the painted nose cone that we actually thought that would end up being stacked on top of SN5. SN6 has since been completely decommissioned and pulled apart. So SN5, as far as we're aware, is still kind of sitting there. I'm not sure if it's going to end up with this human landing system mock-up nose cone on top of it at some point just for presentational purposes or not. We have seen a couple of little pads from RGV aerial photography shots, which I think could indicate that they're planning a little bit of a monument sort of platform. I don't know whether that could potentially be for SN5 and that nose cone or not, or whether it's just nothing at all related. That's going to be interesting. Thank you there for the super chat there. TFR active, let's go. Yes, and this is again more evidence towards some of that confusion that we're seeing at the moment. We have the temporary flight restrictions that seem to indicate that we've got everything locked down for a flight, and then we've got FAA notices saying that it's cancelled for the day at the same time as there being evacuations on site. So I don't know, at the moment I'm kind of calling this 50-50, and I don't know what's going to happen. Hi Marcus, good to see you. I'm a little late to the stream. What if anything has gone wrong? I heard you mention a scrub. So for people just joining in, we don't know if there's a scrub at this point. All we know is that there's conflicting information, and it's almost appearing like we're going to have similar confusion to what we were witnessing yesterday, which is always extremely frustrating as a presenter trying to tell you accurate information. As soon as there is accurate information, let us know in the chat where you're seeing that source from and who it's coming from, and we can jump right into that as we're talking about general Starship stuff. As we can see from the site, beautiful clear day. We do have a little bit of activity, a little bit of venting going on around the grass area there. That doesn't really mean anything at this stage. It's good that we're seeing some form of activity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be heading towards fueling. We're not seeing any sort of ground venting or anything like that, which is obviously one of the next steps that we would expect to see if we were going for a flight. But the fact that the roads are closed and the pad is clear, that's a good first step. Hopefully we're going to get some news on that soon. Yes, Gameplay Review UK. Yes, not another yesterday. That is very true. I'm not so much whispering, I'm just trying to not stress my voice too much. The family is asleep. They were asleep yesterday though. What I'm actually trying to do is make sure that I don't really mess up my vocal cords so I can't continue, because that's going to be a little sad if that happens. Do you know when it might launch? Look, the actual road closures today are a little better than what we had seen, a little less. They span less time. I'll just bring them up quickly. because we have a very small amount of information available to us right now. Let's quickly zoom that in. There we go. All right, so this is what we currently see. So we have our Friday the 29th there, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So yes, it's a less, it spans less time than yesterday's, which went all the way up to 6 p.m. There was still potentially several hours left in the launch window yesterday when we stopped the stream after everything got cancelled and and everything was reopened. So yes, that it's good that we have a smaller launch potential window there. As is scrolling across there in Lab Padre's sort of ticker tape notification list there, they're currently going for approval by the FAA. We saw all sorts of interesting information yesterday, back and forth between whether they were going to attempt a launch after Elon Musk publicly tweeted that he was fairly upset about the process. So yes, that's interesting. And we're more than likely going to see it first on Lab Padre's stream there. As soon as there's something pointed out from his side, we're going to see it here as well, which is a nice little benefit of restreaming that through. How much force at max Q does the nose cone experience on a standard Falcon launch? I'm assuming we're talking here about Starship itself because, that's essentially what we're here looking for. As far as we're aware at this stage, this flight profile is going to be almost identical to the flight profile of SN8. This is SN9 we're looking at here, obviously. And basically, by the time the final engine cut off, it was pretty much just hovering. In fact, it almost appeared to be descending just a little bit whilst it was sort of about to do that flip. That is really all we know at this point, and there was really not much pressure at all. Max Q, it was barely worth even mentioning Max Q with the SN8 flight because it just didn't really pick up enough velocity to really make it worth even mentioning. Obviously further down the track, the entire Super Heavy booster will be hurling the Starship up into orbit, and that's going to have a similar sort of profile, I would expect, to what we see with Falcon 9. The booster, I would think, would cut off just a little earlier, perhaps because there's a larger portion of payload to what we see with a Falcon 9. Will be great to see what kind of telescope we can send up with Starship, aka BFR. Yeah, and look, this is always one of the great benefits. The huge width of the Starship here, it's around 9 meters. That's heaps wider than the payload capabilities of the Falcon 9. So you can send up something that's much wider. You don't have to do quite the amount of trickery to get things packed into the fairing area that you would have to with a Falcon 9. If you think about something like the James Webb Space Telescope, there's all sorts of crazy folding that has to go on to actually make that launch possible, and there's such huge effort and time behind it, and you have to wonder, if we just had launch vehicles that had that wider capability, that fairing capability, would they have had to spend quite that amount of time trying to engineer this crazy origami sort of setup that had to happen with the James Webb Space Telescope? And obviously we really hope that that's all going to flow through, is all going to launch successfully. This had a lot of delays with that mission, and obviously they're all very necessary delays to make sure that everything is 100%. But the pressure on the vehicle for that launch, the actual pressure for everybody to get that launch right is just extraordinarily high, on par with human-rated missions. It's extremely important that launch goes well. There has been such a huge investment spent in that. So, yes. Oh, Matthew, thanks so much. That's awesome of you. Keep up the good work. Wake me up when it flies, when it launches. Thanks so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And another one there from Radar as well. Thank you so much for the support, guys. It's awesome of you. We've got roughly 1,200 people here at the moment. it's I think at the moment there's just a lot of people hanging off really joining in the streams until there's some real solid evidence that we're going to see a flight today. It's going to be interesting to watch that play out. Lots of people here asking, is it going to happen today? We don't know. We still don't know. Hey there, Eric X. Lovely to see you here. Eric X, I'm a big fan of your work, obviously, doing all that amazing 3D animation work. Really wicked stuff. Love it. And Greg Scott there as well in the moderating, helping to moderate. Awesome to see you here, mate. Thank you. When is the freaking launch going to happen? Yes, I understand people's frustration. And for me, I don't mind that these things get scrubbed. I don't mind that there's cancellations and issues with the ship. You know, that's all part of developing a prototype vehicle. What I do feel a lot of frustration around is that we can't get any decent clarity on whether there's actually going to be an attempt. You would think that we should at least be able to, at this stage, after they've had SN8's flight, that we should be able to at least know, are they going to attempt it today, or are we just all starting off live streams for no real reason? Yes, there's a comment there saying, according to Lab Padre admins, the FAA already scrubbed there. So, you know, it's interesting what's going on at the moment. If anybody's seeing anything conclusive, just let me know, because I may not be the first to hear it. There's certainly a lot of comments and threads that I'm sort of keeping an eye on at the same time. It's just a little hard to sift through the nonsense. There's so many people saying, "Oh, it's aborted. You know, you're wasting your time. You're wasting everybody's time." It's like we've still got evacuations that have taken place, and as far as we're aware, things are looking positive in that there's activity going on. The village has been cleared. And I'm also seeing conflicting information saying that FAA approval has been given. FAA posted new info since their recent session. And then other people saying FAA approved. I'm not sure where they're getting that information from though. So if you've seen a new notice pop up, let us know. That would be awesome to see. So yes, what I might do here, we're looking at getting a guest on board. Just 1 second, we're just sort of preparing a few things here. Okay. Let's see if this works. Hello there, Neo. Can you hear me? Let's see. Okay, I'll just quickly turn up that. Let's give that another go.
Hello?
Hi, how you going? Neopork. It is awesome to have you on here. Just do a quick audio check. We'll make sure the audience can hear you. If everybody can hear, please let us know. How have you been today, mate?
Hello?
Hey, how you going? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello. I don't know if we're actually getting this working.
Check.
One second, we're just going to tweak some stuff here. Obviously, we're trying to get Neopork included here in the live stream. I believe the audience could hear loud and clear, but Neopork couldn't hear me. So I'm not sure why that is, because in Discord I am actually coming through on Discord, I think. We'll just see if we can get that sorted. In the meantime, I'll just answer a few questions. Am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. I can see my little green indicator there popping up on Discord, so it should be fine. We'll see. Can you hear me there, Neopork? Doesn't seem so.
I can hear you on YouTube.
Oh, okay, but you can't hear me in Discord. This might be a failed experiment.
That's right.
This could be a failed experiment. What's happening there? All right, well, we might try this again in a moment. Just 1 second. I believe the issue was just that Neopork wasn't getting our feedback out through Discord, so we'll see if he can do that with a different voice channel, and once that's all working, we'll bring him back in. Super excited to have Neopork actually join, because there's all sorts of things that we can talk about in regards to the awesome renders he does, so let's hope we can get that working. No rush, we're just chilling. All good in YouTube. My PC is too tired, being 1 a.m. Yeah, look, it is certainly late in the day for us, or early in the morning, I should say. But yes, it is. It's one of those things where we did this all okay yesterday, streamed right through the night, and it was all a fairly successful process. I'm just trying to make sure that I have got voice left, so I'm trying not to strain it too much. Invite the FAA in the Discord chat. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Ask them directly what's going on. Okay, so we were going to talk about a few other components of the Starship launch, which I thought was interesting with SN8, and I had a few comments earlier asking about that in terms of why they actually launch without the turning off one engine at a time. And it's quite interesting. My guess is, and we never really heard super official information on the answer to this, but the reason I believe that they did this was to increase the length of time that they could run the test for. So we expected that entire flight, the entire launch process of SN8 to be over and done with in just over a minute. In reality, it actually was more like 4 minutes, and that was a big surprise to all of us, and I think the reason for that surprise is that we were expecting it to sort of use its full thrust, the full thrust capability of the 3 Raptor engines. And remember, those have got roughly 200 metric tons of force each, so 600 tons worth of force pushing up at full throttle. The reason why they sort of throttled them down was to sort of let the vessel increase in altitude quite slowly. That gives them more time to run the test on the Raptors. That was, I believe, the longest Raptor test that they had ever done. Maybe the longest Raptor test that they have ever done to date. Still, I'm not sure on that. But by cutting off one engine at a time, they were able to lower the thrust-to-weight ratio of the vessel, so that by the time they actually did the final engine cutoff, it was basically just hovering there, essentially just waiting to drop. So there was very minimal pressure on the actual outside skin of the vessel. There wasn't a lot of atmospheric pressure. The most atmospheric pressure would have been as it was doing its belly flop, landing back through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. Obviously, the idea there is to increase the maximum amount of drag possible, so that it slows the vehicle right down as slow as it can, so that it just doesn't need to have a huge amount of force needed to just reduce that last amount of velocity with the engines. Lots of great comments there. Hi David, thanks for joining us there. David's a member. You need some lemons. I do need a few lemons, don't I? I've got some tea. I have the same mug I was using last night. That is my little periodic table mug. Very handy. My memory's not good enough to remember the ordering of them all. How many engines are we expecting on the first Super Heavy flight test? That's a great question. At the moment, we're expecting 4 engines to be on this one. We've seen a little bit of evidence about that this week, which will be in the video that I post tomorrow morning. So that will have a little bit of information about that. We've essentially seen just a few indications of the plumbing for the bottom thrust puck area of that Super Heavy. That's looking like it's going to have 4 engines on it because it's got the 4 sets of piping for the liquid oxygen and the 4 sets for the liquid methane. So that's going to be interesting. How are we pointing the end up? Any info on the Raptor serial numbers? Not a huge amount of information that I would say is up to date. We know that they're above Raptor serial number 50 at the moment, so we assume they're somewhere between serial number 50 and serial number 60. That is about all we know at this stage. A question that might have already been answered: does Super Heavy have legs? Will the Super Heavy have legs? I think the first prototype Super Heavy will absolutely have legs. They're not going to end up doing anything too crazy with that first iteration, the first prototypes. They'll probably have sort of minimal leg systems, I would think. I don't know whether they're going to use some sort of crush core type setup like they're using at the moment with Starship, or whether they're going to have something else quite temporary. That remains to be seen. And we think what they're going to be potentially doing in the future is either trying to land directly in the launch mount, which is a crazy idea of itself, or by itself, or an even crazier idea of catching the thing right out of the air with some sort of launch tower grabbing mechanism, something that there was lots of mock-ups. Eric X, who was in here earlier, I'm not sure if you're still there, Eric, did some great renders of some of these things, some of these simulations. Corey likewise did a lot of them as well, Seabass. Such an awesome community, and I forgot to mention in my stream yesterday, there is a list of all of the 3D artists that we talk to and communicate with a lot in the description of this video as well. So if we're talking about Neopork or Eric X or Corey, Seabass, they're all listed in the description. Make sure you're following them because they're all brilliant. Honestly, they, we all owe so much to them being able to allow us to more visually display what we're trying to see. Quite a bit of politics stuff going on. Please don't spam the chats with politics and whatnot. It's not the right place for it. We're a space channel. We're wanting to watch things about Starship. We're not interested in debating politics and whatnot. I know there's a few people at the moment, or more than a few people, I'm assuming, that are spamming a lot of stuff about FAA. It's not warranted, frankly. The FAA, I'm sure, has got their own side of the story. SpaceX obviously feels some frustration because the procedures aren't, the processes aren't happening fast enough for them. The FAA has a very important job. You've only got to look at what happens if something goes wrong in flights, or if something hasn't been checked off properly, or there hasn't been an issue considered correctly. They've got an important job and a high-pressure job, and we need to respect that. At the same time, we do hope that they will actually turn around the information quickly so we know one way or another whether it's going to launch or not. I wonder if space travel becomes more common. As space travel becomes more common, we may see a space-dedicated FAA or an FSA. That's an interesting one, as a branch or something like that. Yeah, look, I expect as we see more and more launches and prototypes that there probably will be at least some more divisions of that, so that there is maybe quicker turnaround of these decisions. I think that's very true. Eric X was just thinking that you guys are at the forefront of the space community. You bring in the masses and get hundreds of thousands of new people excited about spaceflight. It's an honour to help out. Well, look, it goes both ways. We get to drive the enthusiasm. We also get to help drive it by sharing little snippets of your incredible work, and it all makes the enthusiasm even greater. So thank you, not only to yourself there, Eric, but everybody that has helped us out. So yes, let's. We're just going to have a quick check here again. 1 minute. Just do a quick test here with Neoporks if we've got that mic issue sorted. Okay, can you hear me now, Neopork? What's going on, man?
Hello.
Hello, now we've got you. Okay, can everybody hear that in the live stream as well? I think we're coming through nice and clear now.
I can hear you perfectly. Can everybody hear me in the chat?
Yep, we're all good.
Hey,
We've got lots of yeses
there in the chat.
Awesome. Hey, man, it's awesome that you're here as well, Corey. Wicked. We'll have to get you in here as well at some point in the near future. It's awesome to have amazing guests to just have a chat about. So what I wanted to have a chat to you about, obviously, Neo, is just some of the stuff that you do. Obviously, we have got so much. I can actually bring stuff up on screen as we're talking. What would you say is your like as a bit of an introduction to yourself? What would you say your where did the enthusiasm for doing these incredible 3D renderings? Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always been interested in 3D, and I've probably been doing it for about 15 years as just a kind of a light hobby. But I got more serious about it maybe March or April last year because I had finished my grad school program and I wanted to get back into doing some artwork, and 3D has always kind of been my method of choice for art. And I don't know. As far as spaceflight goes, I got interested in spaceflight around the time that Falcon 9 was starting to practice their landings, and I just got hooked with the idea of reusable spaceflight and what that was going to mean for the future. And then when I saw Starship starting to be developed, I started following the NASA Spaceflight Forum a lot and getting to know kind of the system there and some of the people. And then I saw the amazing renders by people like Kimi Telvidi and Casper Stanley and some others that had been doing renders there. And I was like, you know what? I do 3D stuff and I'm really interested in this. So I decided to make a Starship model, one of my early ones. And I just got hooked. It kind of became an obsession.
Well, we can certainly tell because as we've, watched your amazing work and we're looking at some of it now, I'm just playing the one from your YouTube channel actually, which is, it's this one's probably quite dated now. I'll have to get some more recent stuff up there. But, this is, I think, just a good example of some of the, just some of the amazing path you've been on. And, I think, did you say a moment ago that you've kind of only really been working on these models over the course of the last year or so? Is that what you were saying?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing 3D for longer than that, but I've only been doing space-related stuff for less than a year now. I think I started in late March of last year.
Yeah. I mean, how far you've come with the renders you've done here kind of blows my mind, to be honest. I mean, you can start off with no real huge understanding of the rockets that you're sort of building, and just being able to actually go down to that level is pretty extraordinary, I think, because you've not only had to figure out the engineering behind how all this stuff comes together, the size and the dimensions of everything, that stuff, it's not easy stuff to figure out. You have to use a lot of those plans, and I'm assuming you probably had a lot of information from a lot of diagrams and things to go from.
Yeah, that's right. Now that you mention it, Raphael Adami, who does those amazing Starship diagrams on Twitter and NASA Spaceflight 2, was a huge inspiration. I mean, he makes those great blueprint diagrams, and a lot of people, not just myself, use those as reference for modeling Starship. And if you don't know about him, definitely check that out too. I know you do, but I mean your audience here.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly it's the amazing photos from the on-site. I mean, I think it's completely unprecedented here to have, this much coverage and photographs and and buzz around
Yeah.
a rocket development program, and it's just out in the middle of a field in Texas, and we can all watch it, and I think that's pretty incredible. And because of that, we have all these amazing reference photos that I can use to make my textures and models and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. No, 100%. You know, we all benefit from that exact same sort of, you know, openness that SpaceX have got. I think it's extremely awesome of SpaceX to be that open with it, because they don't need to be. I mean, with that, it could be locked down like, you know, the majority of other space agencies. Most are very secretive about what they do. Just quickly, I think, as we were talking just a little bit about where some of your inspiration came from there, I'll just quickly flash that up, because Raphael is
hard
a
for us to
champion.
stomach. Oh, the FAA is keeping us safe.
That was the wrong thing.
We have a Discord channel with some of the spaceflight artists now too, and we have for a couple months, and it's been really fun getting to know some of these guys.
Yeah. So I've just got on screen the just one of the more. It's actually Raphael's pinned tweet there from his diagram. So, you know, these sorts of diagrams are extremely beneficial for the 3D artists like yourself, because they, you know, you can really start to model these things in a way that is extremely accurate. And Raphael does such a great job keeping us all up to date with the exact measurements that we believe that we have spotted over the course of this long time. He's also got a shirt, so you can buy those shirts and things straight from him directly there as well. Really cool diagram that you can have on the front of a shirt there. I've got one myself, actually. Really cool stuff.
I might have to get one. Yeah, Raphael is meticulous. I think he's one of the only people out there that actually pixel counts and measures things based on objects that are close to them. And I don't think you're going to find more accurate measurements for Starship unless you work at SpaceX.
Yeah. He's definitely one of the main sources that everybody draws from. I know Brendan, who works quite closely with me doing all those wonderful diagrams, has got you know, a lot of those things are based off the measurements that have come from RAF originally and things like that. So yeah, that's all very cool.
Yeah, Brendan's amazing. I haven't really spoken to him much, but I remember, you know, months ago when we were, you know, sort of early in working together on some stuff, and Brendan came around and started making those diagrams, and just to see how far he's come too. I mean, everybody knows who he is, and
Yeah.
And the diagrams get referenced everywhere. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, they honestly do. I mean, we obviously reference them in our videos here. I know most other people that are doing updates on Starship are showing those diagrams as well. Super awesome stuff that everybody's doing. And, you know, it's such a great team because, you know, everybody's open to share. You know, it's just amazing to sort of work with everybody. Everybody's just happy to have their stuff shown more than anything, I think. As long as it's not, you know, nicely credited, that you know that things have come from here and this is the source, you know, nobody's got a problem with it. And I might just flash up a few more. I've got a sort of a folder of assets from you, actually, Neo, here, which we can just sort of throw up as we're chatting. I just thought I'd quickly just check into the chat, though, make sure there's been no huge differences in what's going on. What are we seeing here? The pad is clear, which we know. Anybody in the chat, is there any new updates? FAA site doesn't have a message about Starship anymore. If that's true, that's kind of a good sign, because they were saying that the Starship flight was cancelled. If it's been removed and now it says nothing, that's better than it saying cancelled. So we may still be progressing towards some sort of flight.
That would be great. It's been I mean, for you especially with the time zones, it's been a crazy week. But
yeah.
just been on the edge of our seat, and you know, it's almost worse because we had the SN8 flight, so we know what to expect, and like we want to see it again. It was almost like for the first time for SN8, we didn't know what was coming or when it was going to happen exactly, so it was easier to wait.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And actually, as we're talking a little bit about SN8, for people that don't follow this quite as closely, the main issue with the SN8 flight was, of course, the landing. The reason it didn't land correctly was due to essentially due to an issue with the pressure in the liquid methane header tank. The liquid methane header tank just had an issue with the gas pressure inside it. Obviously, if you've got an enclosed tank, if you sort of think about having just a plastic bottle or something full of soda, if you were to remove all the liquid from it, the whole thing would crumple up, right? You need to have air coming in one side so that it can actually help push the liquid out. And I think what's happened with the liquid methane tank is that there just wasn't the pressure build up inside the tank. They would have had some sort of gaseous pressure system. I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to use. I know we've talked a lot in the past about autogenous pressure systems and stuff, which I know SpaceX are always aiming towards. What that essentially means is that they can take the liquid oxygen and the liquid methane, and they can just heat it up a little to essentially turn some of it into a gas, which will then be used to actually feed into the tanks to help push the fuels out, the fuel sources out. So that's quite a difficult thing to do quickly and rapidly. So it's not a simple thing. Alternatively is what I'm trying to say. What they're trying to do at the moment is just use helium to actually push that fuel out, and I believe that alteration is done here for SN9. So they would have like a helium tank close by, which would be feeding pressure into the liquid methane header tank when needed. So yes, which is actually probably a good little segue into one of your graphics, which I used yesterday. I feel like I need to use it again because it's my favourite. And that
just
is,
a quick update. There appears to be some tank farm activity.
Oh, does there? Well, that would be good. Oh, yes, there is there right on the side, on the far left. We can see some venting
almost
going on.
can't see it, but
yeah. Oh, that's cool. It's good to see some activity.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, bring up the diagram if you wanted to, but I was just going to make a comment about the helium. I just learned this myself last year. I guess I'm naive, but helium is actually becoming more and more scarce because it only comes from a few sources, one of which is deep in the ground from, I believe, natural gas extraction.
Yeah.
And because it's becoming more and more rare, it's not really a feasible option for Starship, which is part of the reason that autogenous pressurization is important, but also because, when you're launching from Mars, you're not necessarily going to have a helium source.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to have a self-sustaining system on board Starship. So I don't think we've seen, I'm sure they've tested it, but I don't think we've seen an actual system like that on a Starship prototype yet, but you're right, this one is going to be pressed with helium for the header tanks, and hopefully if that works, we'll see a successful landing.
Yeah, exactly right. I've just actually got the naked Starship up here on screen. You've got a slight delay, obviously, if you're watching the video in the background with the audio turned off, but you'll kind of see roughly where I am after 10 seconds or so there, Neo. But yeah, the area where the part we're talking about here is the liquid methane header tank right there. Pretty sure you can see my mouse on screen, can you not? Let me know if for some reason you can't see that. But yes, and then from that, that feeds down into the downcomer there, right down into the engine. So if you imagine this full tank here is the main tank, that's the liquid oxygen tank. This is the liquid methane the liquid methane main tank, and this is the liquid methane header tank there. So the header tanks are just used, for those people that aren't familiar, the header tanks are used for just the landing burn. So this remains full all the time, right from launch. And initially, when it's launching, it's using the fuel out of the main tank. And there's just some valves in here. So after they hit the top of their arc, they shut the valves off. There will be some valve systems in here somewhere, not sure where.
It's right on top of this. Right on top of the sphere. You can't see it in this one, but if you could imagine the other half of that hemisphere right above where it joins with the bulkhead there, there's I think 4, maybe 6 different valves on the that go around the circumference there that would close to seal that off. And then they would pressurize that to drive the methane down to the Raptors.
Yeah, yeah. And see, this is the great thing, because you have to build it in 3D, you have to understand it. See, I can sort of know generally how it works and say there's valves in here somewhere. I don't really need to know where they are. You do need to know where they are because you've got to build them. So, you know, yeah, it's kind of interesting. You've always got more insight than me on some of the nitty-gritty little details here.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's kind of become an obsession, but like you're exactly right. Because I am modeling these things, I have to find as many reference photos as I can, and I've learned a lot. One of the things I learned was kind of a happy accident for 3D modelers, which is it's always nice when you can model something one time and then reuse it over and over again, versus like every part is a brand new part that's completely custom. And those valves that they use on almost all of the pipes for like the ground support equipment, the header tank, the external vents, etc., they're all the same valve. So I just modeled it once and now it's all over Starship.
Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? And you know, there's this. I've just zoomed out a little here to give everybody a bigger perspective. Oh, that's interesting. Somebody's here saying, "I'm confused. I hear Tim, the everyday astronaut, but he is live." It's like, no, this is not Tim. This is Neopork. Unless you're confusing my voice.
I would not have thought that I sounded like Tim.
No, I didn't think so.
Oh,
but,
we are both Midwestern boys, though. He's just one state down from me in the United States, and we've never met, but. Maybe if there wasn't the pandemic going on, we could go hang out, since it'd just be a couple-hour drive for me.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. We are hearing notices here that there is a definite scrub for today.
Oh.
Mary has been informed she can return. No flight today, so it sounds like the evacs have now been cancelled. Let me just see if we can confirm this. I will have Discord chats here somewhere. There is the link right there. I mean, we were sort of expecting this might happen, so I don't think there's really a huge surprise here. But all the same, it's disappointing. It's another night of frustration, which is sad.
Yep.
We
always knew it was a possibility.
Definitely. We knew this was more than likely a fairly high potential as the outcome. I've just posted the link to Mary's tweet there in Twitter. So essentially she's saying there, I've been informed that I may return home to Boca Chica Village. No Starship SN9 flight attempt today. When Hop continues. So yes, that is a bummer. So yeah, I mean, we might just sort of what I'll do it immediately, because that's conclusive enough for me. I don't think we need any more evidence than that. I'm just going to quickly change the title so that we're not misleading people. Third and scrub. That is unfortunate. So there we go. All the people that are here already just waiting. Sorry that we're not seeing yet another. we're seeing another delayed flight. So I'm assuming this is going to mean that we're actually going to be pushed back into Monday. Bare minimum Monday. They're not typically going to reattempt this over the weekend, I wouldn't think. They tend to shy away from that. I could be wrong. It could be that we will see some closures come up, but typically they don't like shutting down the beach over the weekend, or they don't do it lightly. Question there for you, Neopork, from Gameplay Review UK. How long did you say you've been making 3D models for? I missed it.
I would say the first time I ever touched a 3D program was about 15 years ago, and I've sort of done it on and off over the years, but I think for the last year I've been doing it probably more than I've ever done, just because I actually have an application for it. I mean, people seem to really like my renders, which is motivating for me. And before that, it was just learning different softwares and tinkering around and kind of building my toolkit. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I've said this a number of times, but I'll say it again. The models that you do are textured better than anything I've seen from anyone else. You've got a real knack for really getting those textures looking super realistic. And I'll bring up a few more. I'll just bring them up over in the other window. Just to
I'm
sort of
actually in the
scroll through.
process of redoing a lot of my Starship model with a level of detail that I've not done before in the actual modeling. I haven't started texturing it yet, but I like that one.
Yeah, I've got so many great renders here from you. I just sort of keep them in a folder because I just to make them easy to find. But the other one I really love is this one. This is the this one's just, it's the rotated version of the one we were looking at before, but it's actually got the skirting there, so you can sort of see through the skirting. I just think that looks really cool. That's one of my faves that you've done there, and just moving right up, you can see all the cutaways there for the liquid oxygen header tank as well. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I had never actually modeled the piping that goes from the oxygen header tank down to the Raptors, but I've actually done all the plumbing on my next model, so I won't conveniently hide that from future shots.
Yeah. I just tell everybody that runs down the side here. It's just being hidden away. It's all there.
It actually runs down the windward side, at least in the current prototypes. On Raphael's diagram, he put it on the side because it's easier to see, because it's not overlapping with stuff. But it'll run down the windward side.
So right down the center, sort of thing, right down the middle. Yep. That would make sense. So it'll kind of just run on the far wall, right down through. I'm assuming it punches through the. There must just be a valve at the top of the. Well, we've seen it actually. There's sort of a piping interface at the top of the top dome there for the liquid methane tank. So it must feed straight down through. Exactly.
I don't know that there's any clear photos that I've seen of that assembly, because we never get to see inside Starship after it's built, and a lot of those sub-assemblies, especially with the Raptor piping, are done in the high bay that you can't really see. But I'm sure someday we'll see it. But the other thing about that is, I realized this while I was trying to do my piping down by the Raptors, is that every single prototype changes. There hardly any of them are the same.
Yeah. And we've seen that progress as you've moved through. I've just thrown up a couple more images just of the belly flop. Some of these are just so awesome, and some of these I was getting you to do for a few thumbnails and things. It's been awesome seeing the response to those. In fact, I think my most viewed video is one of your thumbnails from memory, and
that's
what
I like to hear.
Yeah. So it definitely gives people a lot of engagement. Super chat there from Navy Dude 21. Can't listen in now while I'm back at work, but I've got the live stream going. Love the videos. Keep up the good work. Thanks, man. Appreciated. But yeah, this one here is one of my favourites too. You can sort of see the just that bit of atmospheric sort of drag, those sort of contrail type things from the air surfaces. That's really cool.
Yeah, that belly flop one from the top, the one that you were showing just before, is probably my favorite, single favorite render I've ever done. But it's I don't know, something about it, just the lighting and the lens flare. But I wish that the contrails were a little bit more vertical, but I could always redo it.
Yeah. We're certainly looking forward to seeing what's coming. I know that you've got a few things in the pipeline. We do have a segment that's going to come out that's sort of showing a little more detail about what you do. It won't be in tomorrow's video because that one's already pretty chockers, but it'll probably be in the following one, I would say, unless we end up with just a ton of Starship SN9 news that we've got to go over. Depends what happens. Who can predict these things? We were predicting that we would see this this SN9 flight weeks ago, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for it. I'll just quickly show that last little render there as well. That was one of the more recent ones you did there for a Mars render, a Mars landing or takeoff, actually. That was a really cool one too.
Oh yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice. That's nice, isn't it? So yes, we might actually look at wrapping up, because there's probably not a great deal of point hanging around at this point. Everybody's probably already sick to death of listening to me talk about this flight potentially happening when now it's not. So yes, it's coming up to 2 a.m. We've been streaming for roughly an hour already, but at least we've had an answer fairly quick. We haven't been streaming for 4 hours this time, so at least we have an answer, which is good.
Right.
But yeah, no, thanks for coming in and being a guest, mate. It's awesome. We'll have to get you back on when we've got another more lengthy live stream going. But awesome to chat to you. Hopefully the audience has enjoyed hearing from you. I know they get to see a lot of your material, even if it's just through my videos. Hopefully they've now got the links off to your social media to follow you directly, because that is the source right there.
Yep. Yeah, this was really fun, Marcus. Thanks for having me on, and I'd be happy to do it again anytime if it works.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's been great.
All right, I'll drop off and let you do your thing. But hi, everybody around the world, and hopefully we'll see you launch soon.
No worries. Thanks, mate. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Marcus.
Awesome. Such a pleasure to have people like Neopork here just having a chat to us. You know, we don't often get to hear about a lot of the work that goes on in the background. We just get to see it. But just remember, there's real people making these incredible things in the background, and it's always very mind-blowing, especially to me, having these having access to see this stuff and share it with everybody. It's brilliant, and thanks Neo and everybody else that I work with for being so open and being happy to allowing us to share, and hopefully that's that goes two ways, and we help you drive your own social platforms and Patreons and things like that. Yes, support on Patreon where you can, because their stuff is just amazing. All right, so unless there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any. We aren't necessarily needing to log off immediately. I'm probably not going to hang around too long, because it is 2 a.m. and obviously nothing's going to happen today. But a lot of people are asking, why was it scrubbed? We know that it was scrubbed, but why was it scrubbed? I'm actually not sure. It may be that they just don't have FAA approval, and that could be the end of it. Can I go to bed? Lots of people asking, can I go to bed? You absolutely can. There's not much that's going to happen here with SN9 today. I'm wondering if they will potentially do anything with SN 7.2 sitting over there on the left-hand side. SN 7.2 is going to have a test to destruction at some point. I was kind of hoping we'd see that before the weekend video, so we could actually report on that. We know that it's already had a successful test, and that successful test is something that Elon Musk did tweet about. He mentioned that the pressure for that was good. The reason why that's significant is because that tank is made from 3mm thick steel rings instead of the 4mm thick steel rings that we see with the Starship there over on the right-hand side. So yes, it may not sound like a big change, but it's essentially dropping a quarter, or a quarter at least from the ring segments for the dry mass of the entire vehicle, if that works out to be something that they can use for the entire Starship as an example. And that makes a big difference. Every single kilogram saved in the Starship itself is an extra kilogram of payload that they can put into low Earth orbit or deliver to the Moon or Mars or whatever it might be. So that's a direct 1-to-1 ratio if they can save any dry mass on the Starship. Not so much for the booster. If the booster's a little heavier, it has an impact, but it doesn't have a 1-to-1 impact like it does with Starship. So it's really important to be able to get the dry mass of the Starship down as low as possible. what do we got here? Where does everybody have the info of being scrubbed? So we know that it's been scrubbed because Mary, the source that I'm going from here is that it's scrubbed because Mary, aka Boca Chica Gal, has been told that she can go back to the village now, can go back home. So that means that the road closures are no longer going to be active. The evacuation has essentially been closed off. So they definitely can't launch anything while there is people around, 100%. Can Elon consider us Aussies whinging that it's 2 a.m? He could, couldn't he? I must admit, over the last couple of days, I've sort of ended up transferring into a US time zone. I don't feel tired at all right now. I feel like I've got a bit of a husky voice, but apart from that, I actually feel like I could stay up for hours. So I'll probably go to bed now and not be able to sleep, which is just brilliant. And then I'll end up crashing tomorrow during the day. Hello from Nashville, Tennessee. Hi there, G. Keen. From an old guy who lived and watched through the space programs of the 1960s, multiple scrubbings are normal. Your expectations are too high. This is all new technology. Be patient. And that is always a good thing to keep in mind. These are prototypes. We expect them to be scrubbed quite frequently because there's a million things that can go wrong and there's only one way that it can go right. So although it seems frustrating that we're all watching and seeing nothing, it is certainly something that's expected to a degree. The fact that we saw SN8 fly relatively quickly was wonderful. SN9 we thought was going to launch much quicker again, and they've just had a lot of issues with so many components of this, from at first tipping over in the high bay and sort of crumpling its wing surfaces, to then having to be sort of refixed, and then there was issues with the Raptors, and the Raptors had to be taken out and replaced. So this has just been a jinxed vessel so far as we've seen. But as just mentioned, it's absolutely one of those things that can be, it can be understood quite easily. These things have never been done before, and it's great that we get to have a window in to watch these things live. We don't always get to see stuff like this going on with any other space agency. So we've got to appreciate that we get the window to look in the first place. Musk should buy an island in the Caribbean and do his testing there to avoid any bureaucracy. I'm not sure if there was any bureaucracy involved in this. I think the FAA are doing the job that they need to do to make sure that everything's well tested and safe, and they've got a big responsibility. So don't be too hard on the FAA. Let's go to sleep and stop watching. All right. Well, I think we're probably okay to wrap up. Unless anyone's got any immediate questions for me, I might actually see if we can get some sleep. Who knows? Maybe we'll see new road closures pop up over the weekend. I'm doubtful of that. I don't think that we'll see anything until Monday. Lex Wilson, SN10 rolling out. What's happened with SN10? Why are people talking about SN10? SN10's not rolling out, is it? Because that would be worth talking about. It is rolling out. Let me go and quickly spot that for us. 1 second. We might be able to bring that up on our feed. Because that is interesting. I wonder if they're bringing out potentially to roll down to the site, or whether they're just bringing it out to sort of move things around maybe. That will be interesting. Let me just quickly switch the feed that we've got here, because it's worth checking out. There we see SN10 in the high bay, and it's just rolled out the front door there, which is quite intriguing. Just make sure that the quality's up on that. Yes, it is. Great. So that's interesting that we're seeing that immediately roll out right after everybody's been told that the evacuation has been cancelled. So, could it be possible that they're going to attempt to roll this down to the other pad? I don't know. That would be interesting if true. We might get to see that tomorrow morning. Until then, I might leave you guys with it. Cheeky SpaceX tried to hide it from us. No, they can't hide anything from all the cameras on site. There are people watching everywhere. Lad Padre's got cameras focused in all over the place, as does NASA Spaceflight. We just moved away. And yes, that there is showing the roads that would normally be closed. So you can see there vehicles starting to drive through. So I'm assuming the roads are now open from seeing that. Cool. All right. Well, I will leave you guys with it. Thanks so much for joining me. I know this was a short one. It was a disappointing one. It's all part and parcel of actually, checking out these prototype vehicles try to take flight, and hopefully we will get to see more fairly soon. Until then, I will sign off for now. There's a video coming obviously on Saturday morning, which we're rapidly trying to edit together now. There's been a lot of interruption with all these live streams, so we hope to get that through to you at the same published time that we always do. Worst case scenario, maybe it would go on the Sunday morning instead, but we're aiming for the Saturday. We'll see what we can do. First things first, need to sleep, so we'll do that, and we'll see all of you guys live again soon, hopefully on the next attempt of this, which we hope to be early next week. Until then, I'll sign off. Bye everybody. Love you. Thanks for joining. Absolute pleasure to be here with you all. Really, really appreciated that you're here. Love it. Thank you. Bye.
Heralds really is fundamentally a new era in spaceflight, a new era in space exploration. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to have a base on the moon. We're going to send people to Mars, and make life multiplanetary. And I think this day heralds a new age of space exploration. That's what it's all about.